When people first heard the name Liz Cavalier on Swamp People, they saw a tough, fearless woman who could stand toe-to-toe with the best alligator hunters in Louisiana. But long before she appeared on television, there were whispers and warnings about her. Folks around the swamps knew she was strong, loyal, and unshakable, but they also said she was someone you did not want to betray. Those warnings weren't just made up for drama, they came from people who had worked beside her, hunters who respected her, and even crew members who saw her personality up close. Still, when she walked onto the TV screen with her swagger, her sharp aim, and her unforgettable smile, the audience ignored those warnings. We saw only the queen of the swamp, not the full story behind her. And that's what makes Liz's story so fascinating. To understand Liz Cavalier, we have to go back to her beginnings. She wasn't a city person or someone who just discovered swamp life for entertainment. She was born into it. Liz, whose full name is Elizabeth Dupree Cavalier, was born on January 21, 1970, in Pierre Part, Louisiana. Her parents, C.J. and Ella Dupree, were already seasoned alligator hunters, and they passed down that lifestyle to their daughter. The swamp wasn't just a place for Liz. It was home, and it was her classroom. As a baby, she was taken out on the boat with her father, bottle in hand, while he kept an eye on the waters and the gators. Of course, he didn't let her get too close until she was old enough to understand the dangers, but even then, her learning started young. By the age of 12, Liz finally got the chance to take part in real hunts. That was one of the happiest days of her life, because she had been waiting for it for years. And when she finally got the chance, she proved she was ready. Her shooting accuracy was sharp, her focus was clear, and she quickly became known in her community as someone who could handle the swamp as well as any man. Liz's childhood wasn't just about hunting. She even had a pet alligator named Charlie Pie, which tells you everything about how comfortable she was with these powerful creatures. Not many kids can say they grew up feeding and playing with a 7-foot gator, but Liz could. It was that bond with the swamp, the water, the wildlife, the danger, that shaped her into the person she became. As she got older, she mastered more and more of the techniques her father taught her: how to bait lines, how to control a boat in rough water, how to spot gators, and how to stay calm in life-threatening situations. Hunting wasn't just a job for Liz. It became her identity. Her big break came when the History Channel was casting for the second season of Swamp People in 2011. The producers needed a skilled female alligator hunter to join the team, and Liz's name came up immediately. She wasn't a stranger to Troy Landry, the so-called king of the swamp. Their families had known each other for decades, and her father's ties to the swamp world made her the perfect choice. Troy needed a sharpshooter because his usual partner Clint had stepped away temporarily, and Liz filled that role perfectly. From the moment she joined, Liz and Troy had a natural rhythm. Troy would spot the gator, and Liz would deliver the perfect shot. Fans noticed the teamwork right away, and they gave Liz the nickname Lucky Liz. She wasn't just a sidekick, she was a star in her own right. Soon, Liz branched out further. By the third season, she was leading her own crew on Pecan Island. This showed her independence and her ability to take control, proving she wasn't just living in someone else's shadow. She had the leadership skills, the confidence, and the knowledge to handle her own team. But with hunting always comes danger. In one episode called Dark Waters, Liz was injured while catching a gator. Reports vary on exactly what happened, but whether she fell from the boat or was hurt during the struggle, one thing was clear: the injury was serious enough to be memorable. Yet true to her spirit, Liz bounced back quickly. By the very next episode, she was out on the water again, hunting as if nothing had happened. That resilience made fans love her even more. For viewers, Liz wasn't just another cast member. She represented something deeper. She was proof of the toughness and honesty of Cajun swamp culture. She wasn't pretending for the cameras. She was living the life she had always known, and she brought that authenticity to millions of viewers who had never stepped foot in a Louisiana bayou. She became a fan favorite, the Gator Queen. But behind the scenes, changes were coming. And soon, fans would learn that even someone as beloved as Liz Cavalier wasn't safe from the unpredictable world of reality television. After season 6 of Swamp People ended in 2015, everything changed. The production company, Original Media, decided to shake things up. They wanted new faces, new drama, and a different direction for the show. But their decision shocked both viewers and cast members alike. Out of nowhere, several of the most beloved hunters were cut from the series, and Liz Cavalier was one of them. Fans who had grown attached to her and her daughter Jessica were stunned. There was no warning, no goodbye episode, no explanation, just an announcement that she would not be returning for season 7. For Liz, this was devastating. She had given years of her life to the show, risking her safety in dangerous hunts, sharing her family's culture, and building a bond with the audience. To have it all taken away so suddenly felt like a deep betrayal. What made the situation even worse was the way it was handled. Liz wasn't given a reason for her removal. Neither were the other cast members who were also cut. The dismissal was cold, abrupt, and impersonal. For Liz, this wasn't just about losing a job. It was about losing her connection to the millions of fans who had supported her. She felt like she had been erased, like all the work and dedication she had put into the show didn't matter. In interviews and social media posts, she made it clear that she was hurt and frustrated. She stressed that the real losers were the fans. They had invested their time and emotions into following the hunters' lives, only to have the heart of the show ripped out without warning. For Liz, Swamp People wasn't just television. It was her way of life. She wasn't playing a role, she was living her truth. That's why the dismissal cut so deep. She had given the producers authenticity, passion, and a piece of her culture, and in return, she was treated as replaceable. She spoke openly about how unfair it felt, and she didn't hide her disappointment. While some people might have stayed quiet, hoping for another opportunity down the line, Liz wasn't one of those people. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind, even if it ruffled feathers. The fans noticed. Many of them were outraged by her departure. They flooded social media with questions and complaints. They asked why she had been removed, who had made the decision, and whether she would ever come back. The outpouring of support showed just how much Liz meant to the audience. She wasn't just entertainment, she was someone people respected and rooted for. One fan even said that Liz was more than just a character on a show, she was a symbol of strength and real Cajun culture. To remove her without explanation felt like erasing the soul of Swamp People. And Liz didn't hold back. On Facebook, she posted directly to her followers, explaining that she had not been given any reason for her removal. She made sure fans heard the truth from her, not from some polished press release. Her post spread quickly, and people rallied behind her. Soon, the producers reached out and told her to take down her posts. But Liz, being Liz, refused. In fact, she responded with a sharp and unforgettable phrase, "Kiss my," that one line told the world everything it needed to know. Liz would not be silenced. She would not erase her feelings to make someone else comfortable. This boldness only made her fans love her more. They saw her as someone who would always speak the truth, no matter the cost. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for every fan who felt cheated by the sudden cast shakeup. Her honesty and defiance turned her removal from a quiet dismissal into a public flashpoint. And in doing so, Liz proved again why she had always stood out. She was real, raw, and unfiltered, and people respected that. But even with the fan support, the damage had been done. Liz's television career had been cut short, and she was left to move forward without the platform she had helped to build. It wasn't a mutual decision. It wasn't a natural ending. It was a cold break, one that left bitterness in its wake. And for Liz, the question still lingered, why? Why would the producers cut the very people who had made the show special in the first place? That question never really got answered, and maybe it never will. Even though her time on Swamp People ended, Liz Cavalier didn't disappear. She stayed connected with her fans through social media and continued to represent the swamp culture she loved so much. She reminded people that her identity was never tied to television alone. It was tied to her family, her community, and the bayou life that shaped her from childhood. That honesty kept her fan base loyal, even after the cameras stopped rolling. Her story is more than just one of fame and dismissal. It's a story about resilience, standing up for yourself, and never letting someone else define your worth. The producers may have thought they could quietly move on without her, but Liz made sure her voice was heard. And in doing so, she showed fans what true strength looks like. She was brave in the swamp, and she was just as brave when standing against the powers that tried to silence her. Today, when people look back at Swamp People, Liz's name still stands out. She wasn't just the Gator Queen because of her aim or her hunting skills. She was the Gator Queen because of her spirit, fearless, loyal, and unwilling to be pushed aside. The warnings about her were right. She was someone you didn't want to betray. And when betrayal came, she showed the world exactly why. When Liz Cavalier first joined Swamp People, viewers quickly noticed she was more than just another hunter on the show. She carried herself with confidence, skill, and a warm but fearless personality that made her stand out from the rest of the cast. Fans began calling her the Gator Queen because she handled herself in the Louisiana swamps with the kind of sharpness and courage that usually takes years to develop. But her journey on the show did not end the way most people expected. Instead, her exit from Swamp People became one of the most talked about mysteries in the show's history. It was not a simple goodbye, but something that left fans with countless questions. Why would one of the most popular stars suddenly disappear without warning? Why did the network stay so quiet? And what did Liz herself feel about it? These questions formed the core of a controversy that has still not been completely answered. At the time, Swamp People had been riding high in popularity, and Liz was part of the reason for its success. When fans saw her missing from the cast list, they felt something wasn't right. A television show, especially one that depends so much on tradition, family, and local heritage, doesn't usually cut off its biggest stars without giving viewers an explanation. That silence, more than anything else, is what created the rumors and suspicions that followed. The biggest theory people came up with was about money. Reality TV is a strange world. On the surface, it looks like real life, but behind the scenes, producers control every decision, every paycheck, and even which people stay on the show. According to fans, Liz and other longtime cast members wanted to be paid more fairly. After all, they were risking their lives in the swamps, wrestling with massive alligators, and giving the show the energy it needed to succeed. To many viewers, it made sense that these hunters, who helped Swamp People become a hit, would want better pay after years of dedication. But instead of agreeing, people speculated that the network simply decided to replace them with cheaper new cast members. Was this really true? Nobody knows for sure, because the producers never confirmed it. Still, the rumor stuck because it fit the timing of events. In the eyes of fans, it seemed like loyalty was sacrificed for profit. That made people angry, not just because Liz was removed, but because it looked like the show had turned its back on the very people who built it. But money wasn't the only rumor. Some reports claimed that the production company, Original Media, didn't just want Liz and the others gone, they also wanted to silence them. Normally, reality TV contracts include non-disclosure agreements, meaning cast members can't talk publicly about what happens behind the scenes. But in this case, there was no legal contract preventing Liz or the others from speaking. Even so, there were whispers that producers applied pressure, discouraging them from sharing their side of the story. That raised eyebrows, because if there was nothing to hide, why keep people quiet? Fans began wondering if the show's image was more important to producers than honesty. Was there something bigger going on behind the scenes? Or was it just about keeping control? For Liz, however, the silence didn't stop her from being respected. In fact, her willingness to stand tall, even when being pushed aside, only made her more admired. Supporters saw her as brave enough to speak up and strong enough to carry herself with dignity despite the situation. The unanswered questions, the lack of an official explanation, and the secrecy from the network all combined to turn her departure into a story of rebellion. It wasn't just about her leaving, it was about her fighting a system that seemed unfair. Even today, people look back at that moment and remember not only that Liz left, but also how strange and mysterious the circumstances were. After season 6, many fans believed Liz Cavalier would never return to Swamp People. Her exit had been too sudden, too dramatic, and surrounded by too much frustration for people to think she would ever go back. So when she showed up again in season 12, years later, it was nothing short of shocking. Social media exploded the moment people realized the Gator Queen was back in the swamps. It wasn't just a cameo either. Liz appeared in multiple episodes, and her presence brought new energy to the show. For longtime viewers, it was like welcoming back an old friend. For newer fans, it was a chance to see why Liz had been such a key figure in the earlier years. Her return was powerful because she seemed completely unchanged. Her sharp voice, her fearless approach to hunting, and her natural leadership were all still there. Watching her in action felt like no time had passed at all. She jumped back into the rhythm of the show smoothly, and it was clear why so many people had missed her. Fans online described her return as a homecoming, and even people who had stopped watching tuned in again just to see her. That kind of excitement is rare in reality television, which is why her comeback became one of the most memorable parts of season 12. But then, just like before, she was gone again. After season 12 ended, Liz disappeared from the cast with no explanation. This left viewers frustrated and disappointed. Why bring her back only to remove her again so quickly? The lack of clarity reignited the same old rumors. Some believed it was once again about money, maybe negotiations fell apart, or maybe producers didn't want to commit to her long-term. Others thought her comeback was purely strategic, meant to give the show a boost in popularity before moving on without her. In this version of events, Liz was brought back not out of respect or loyalty, but as a way to attract attention and bring back lapsed viewers. And once that goal was achieved, the producers no longer needed her. Whatever the reason, fans were left with more questions than answers. It was bittersweet, exciting to see her return, heartbreaking to see her leave again. For many, it felt like reading a favorite book only to have the last chapters torn out. And once again, the network provided no real explanation, leaving the mystery alive. But the short time she was back proved one thing beyond doubt: Liz Cavalier was still one of the strongest personalities the show had ever seen. Her presence elevated the energy of the episodes and reminded everyone why she had become a fan favorite in the first place. Even though Liz's time on Swamp People eventually came to a close, her life didn't slow down. Instead of stepping out of the spotlight completely, she found new ways to share her skills, her personality, and her Cajun heritage with people across the country. One of her proudest achievements was publishing the Gator Queen Liz Cookbook. This was more than just a collection of recipes. It was a way to honor her parents, preserve her culture, and bring the flavors of Louisiana to fans who wanted to experience a piece of her world. The book contained over 100 recipes and dozens of colorful photos, each dish tied to a story or memory from her life. Through the cookbook, Liz showed that her love for cooking was just as strong as her talent for hunting. It wasn't about being a TV star anymore, it was about sharing a piece of herself with anyone who wanted to listen, taste, and learn. But cooking wasn't her only creative outlet. Liz also began handcrafting ornaments, birdhouses, and wreaths that she sold through her social media. These weren't factory-made products, they were carefully built, often reflecting the rustic, natural beauty of the Louisiana swamps. Fans loved being able to buy something Liz had personally created, and in many ways, it made them feel closer to her than watching her on TV ever had. Through her crafts, she found a way to stay connected to people while living life on her own terms. Meanwhile, Swamp People itself continued to move forward. Season after season, new cast members joined, veterans returned, and the battles against the swamp went on. By 2025, the show had already wrapped up its 16th season and was preparing for a 17th. While many fans still watched and enjoyed it, Liz's absence remained noticeable. Whenever people talked about the show, her name always came up. For longtime viewers, she was one of the original legends, someone whose toughness and warmth made her unforgettable. For new viewers, she was often introduced through old clips, stories, or fan conversations that praised her as one of the greats. Liz's legacy is not just about being on television. She proved that gator hunting wasn't only about danger and adrenaline, it was also about skill, tradition, and respect for nature. She stood out in a field dominated by men, showing young women everywhere that they too could succeed in environments where they were told they didn't belong. And she carried Cajun culture onto national television in a way that was authentic, heartfelt, and never watered down. Her influence goes beyond the swamps of Louisiana. It reaches into the kitchens, conversations, and memories of people across America. So even though her time on Swamp People ended with questions instead of answers, Liz Cavalier remains one of the show's most iconic figures. She taught people that being real and staying true to yourself is more powerful than any scripted moment. She built a legacy that continues through her cooking, her crafts, and the countless fans who still admire her. And maybe that's the real lesson in all this: sometimes what happens after the cameras stop rolling is even more meaningful than what happens on screen. Long before television cameras ever followed Liz Cavalier through the swamps, she was already a woman defined by grit, tradition, and the bayou. Born and raised in Pierre Part, Louisiana, Liz grew up surrounded by water, wildlife, and family traditions that revolved around survival. For her, the swamp wasn't just a backdrop for a television series, it was her home, her workplace, and her heritage. From a young age, Liz learned the skills of fishing, trapping, and hunting that were passed down through generations. She didn't see them as unusual or dangerous, they were simply part of life. This upbringing gave her a natural confidence, the kind that later translated so powerfully on screen. When she appeared on Swamp People, audiences weren't watching someone acting for reality TV. They were watching a woman doing what she had always done. That authenticity became one of her strongest qualities. Her path to Swamp People came through her deep ties to other local hunters, particularly Troy Landry, one of the central figures on the show. Liz and Troy had been friends long before the cameras rolled, bound by years of shared swamp traditions. When Swamp People began filming, Liz joined Troy's team as his sharpshooter. Her role wasn't a gimmick or a setup, it was a reflection of real trust. Troy relied on her steady aim when it came time to put down massive alligators in dangerous situations. This partnership gave audiences some of the most gripping moments in early seasons. Fans quickly realized that Liz wasn't just a side character. She was a star in her own right, and it wasn't long before she earned the nickname Gator Queen. Viewers admired her toughness, her precision with a rifle, and the way she balanced bravery with humor. But while fans saw her as unstoppable, life behind the scenes was often more complicated. Reality television compresses long days of hard labor into short, dramatic episodes. For every hunt that made it on screen, there were countless hours of preparation, struggle, and exhaustion that didn't. Liz, like other cast members, worked through harsh weather, swarms of mosquitoes, and the constant danger of the swamps themselves. Yet she never presented herself as a victim. Instead, she carried herself with pride, reminding people that this was her lifestyle, not just entertainment. That honesty is what made viewers connect to her. She wasn't performing, she was living. Still, as the show's popularity grew, tensions between the cast and the production company began to surface. Fans might not realize that being on a hit reality show doesn't always mean financial security. Many hunters were frustrated with how little they were compensated compared to the success of the show. This was particularly hard to swallow for veterans like Liz, who had dedicated their lives to this way of living long before television noticed. The rumors of pay disputes, which later surrounded her exit, didn't come out of nowhere. They reflected a real sense of imbalance between the people doing the work and the companies making money from their stories. Another layer of tension was the way producers tried to shape the narrative of the show. While Swamp People prided itself on authenticity, editing choices sometimes exaggerated drama or downplayed the bonds between cast members. Liz was outspoken and unafraid to voice her opinions, which didn't always sit well with production. This made her both respected by fans, who saw her as someone unwilling to compromise her truth, and possibly difficult for producers, who preferred cast members who stayed within the lines of the story they wanted to tell. It's not hard to imagine that these behind-the-scenes clashes contributed to the decision to remove her from the series after season 6. Yet even in her absence, Liz's influence never disappeared. Fans kept her memory alive in forums, social media discussions, and meet-and-greet events. Many viewers admitted that when Liz left, the show lost a piece of its heart. They missed her quick wit, her sharp eye, and the way she gave a woman's perspective to a world usually dominated by men. For younger viewers, especially girls, Liz had been proof that you could step into a dangerous, male-led tradition and not only keep up but excel. She shattered stereotypes with every hunt, showing that determination mattered more than gender. This influence extended far beyond the television screen. Teachers, parents, and community leaders often pointed to her as an example of resilience and courage. Her brief comeback in season 12 only reinforced that legacy. Even after years away, Liz returned with the same force of personality and skill that had made her iconic. Fans described it as electric to see her back on screen, and the buzz around her episodes confirmed just how much she had been missed. That return also revealed something important about Liz herself. Despite the way she had been treated before, she was willing to step back into the swamp for the fans who still supported her. It was a reminder that her bond with the audience was stronger than any behind-the-scenes disagreements. Life after Swamp People allowed Liz to redefine success on her own terms. Her cookbook was a way to share not just recipes but also her identity, her family, and her culture. Each dish told a story of the bayou, her parents, and the flavors that shaped her life. For many fans, cooking from her book felt like inviting Liz into their kitchens, bridging the gap between celebrity and community. Her crafting business was another expression of that same authenticity. Instead of licensing her name for mass-produced merchandise, she created things with her own hands. That personal touch made her products more than decorations, they became symbols of connection. Culturally, Liz's impact also rippled outward. Before Swamp People, Cajun hunting traditions weren't widely understood outside Louisiana. Many outsiders saw the swamp as an exotic, mysterious place. Through Liz's presence on the show, viewers got a glimpse of what it meant to grow up in that world, how survival, respect for nature, and family ties shaped daily life. She didn't sugarcoat the hard parts, nor did she exaggerate the danger for effect. Instead, she presented her culture with honesty, which gave it dignity and respect. Because of her, countless viewers began to see Cajun culture not as a curiosity but as a rich, valuable heritage. Looking at Liz's journey now, it's clear her story is bigger than one TV show. She represents the conflict between tradition and modern entertainment, between authenticity and the manufactured drama of reality television. Her exit, her comeback, and her life afterward all highlight the struggle of maintaining one's identity in a system that often tries to control it. For fans, this is why Liz Cavalier remains unforgettable. She wasn't just a character on Swamp People. She was a real person who stood for something larger: truth, heritage, and resilience. And that's why people still talk about her today. When they ask why she left, why she came back, or why the producers handled things the way they did, they're not just asking about one hunter. They're asking about the nature of reality TV, about loyalty, and about what it means to stay true to yourself in the face of pressure. Liz's story may never have neat answers, but maybe that's part of what makes it so powerful. The mystery keeps her legend alive. The Gator Queen remains, even if she's no longer on screen, a symbol of the swamp's strength and spirit.